Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome back to the show. We have nonstop winning, nonstop fun, a lot of constant good things. There's ups and downs. However, that's what I want to get into in this series too. I think it's important to talk about not only in crypto. At the end of the day, we're real human beings, most of us. There's probably some bots out there watching right now. Shout out to you. But at the end of the day, how we deal with things and how we look at crypto, our investment strategies and everything else is really a reflection of like our own choices or habits or abilities to, just make good and bad decisions, which again, we find out later on based on how our judgment works things out. But I think that's what I want to do with this series. So the first one I had Brent on, we talked about just a whole gambit of different things. I think Brent and SJ was on there, health, and just anyways, go back and watch Health is Wealth #1 to get a lowdown on that. But a whole bunch of different things we covered in that. Longevity, exercising, Scivive, all that stuff. By the way, hashtag Scivive. Get rich first and then buy your freedom. That's something that seems to be possible in this ecosystem. And with this one, I want to go more into mindfulness and meditation. I think that's something that a lot of people in the community are very interested in. I did a tweet. Hey, who is interested in this stuff? Who would like a stream on it? And will be some good people to have on for it. And got a lot of responses. And that's why I'm going to bring 3 people up in just a moment. Who Brent, of course, has been on before, and a couple others that are in the community who all have. I'll say in the green room we were talking like we all have wildly different experiences with this. I'll talk about my experience as well, but I'll bring them in. We'll get the intros, get you to know them a little bit, and then we'll get into our experiences and the whole deal. What is mindfulness? What is meditation? And how it has positively affected us in our lives. And so get any questions, put them in the chat. We'll go for about an hour or so. And without further ado, let's bring them in. According to appearances, number 1, Brent Nally, welcome back to the show. We got Whitney Magic and Pulse Visionary. How's it going, everyone?
Hello.
Great to be here.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back, Brent, and welcome Whitney Magic and Pulse Visionary. Number 1, first time on the show, maybe not their last. We'll see. You better kill it today. Better do well, both of you. No, just kidding. It's to be very casual, very fun conversation, I think, and really we'll get into a lot of different areas. So, let's just go around again for people not familiar. Brent, can you introduce yourself, your work, your experience a little bit, and we'll go down to Pulse Visionary and Whitney.
Yeah, I'll keep it super brief. I think this is my 3rd time joining Max here on his channel, so thanks for having me again, Max. And just regarding health and longevity, I've just been very passionate, independent researcher since around 2005 on this. And I had my own startup for a little bit called Longevity Plan, which we shut down earlier this year. And I streamed with Richard Hart a few times, interviewed him on our longevity channel in 2020, and I interviewed him on his channel, which is just the way that it turned out, about just health and everything back in, I think, December 2019. And just been early adapter to many technologies. I think technology is what improves our lives more than anything else by far, and early adapter to crypto and Bitcoin and stuff like that. So that's just a little bit about me, and I'm looking forward to this conversation about mindfulness and meditation.
For sure. Yeah. How about you, Pulse Visionary?
Well, I wound up here thanks to my son, who got me involved in crypto. And other than that, my life has been about the healing arts, definitely body work, nutrition, mindfulness, all of that. And as a mental health advocate, in terms of helping with psychedelic integration, harm reduction, and the realms of how our nervous system functions, which is really going through some major changes in the world of mental health. And so I like to help people understand these new breakthroughs of how our nervous system functions, so we can work with it rather than against it.
Awesome. Shout out to sons and daughters getting their parents into crypto. That is awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
He redeemed himself.
That's awesome. Whitney, what's your story?
Hey, thanks for having me on. So mindfulness and crypto have been a wildly big passion of mine. I, in particular, help onboard women, conscious women, into crypto, in particular, this ecosystem, the beautiful RH world, where I'm just like, it's the innovation, it's here. And for myself, I meet more at the crossroads of spirituality. So I used to be a meditation teacher. I used to be a yoga teacher. But more than anything, nowadays, I am a Akashic Records channeler. So it's like I tap into different realms to pull in information. And the real crossroads that I find with crypto, meditation, mindfulness, and channeling is that the common denominator here is we're talking about energy. And our economic energy as an investor is what we invest in. And so we're aligning that to the future and to our values. And then also when we're taking care of our energy through meditation, through mindfulness, these are also practices to be able to tend to our energy, to shift all of that into alignment with where we want to be. So that's a little bit of my own passion.
Yeah. Let's actually start with there. Then we'll continue with Whitney and go back around the top. What has been your experience? And if you want to dive into a little deeper with mindfulness, meditation, the whole just calming practices, just things like that. Like every time I say meditation will calm you, it's like, no, meditation just makes you aware of things, and then you kind of decide what to do with them from there, that sort of thing. But yeah, you want to kind of explain your experience and what you've got out of it so far?
Oh, starting off with me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For myself, I first started off meditating when I was in the corporate world as an engineer, and like I was noticing that there was a lot of disconnect with my life around like the corporate world was not for me, and I was living a life that was not in alignment with me. So meditation first started off as a space and a moment for me to just gain some more stillness and some more awareness. It was even less about stillness. It was more about just awareness and allowing myself to have time with myself. And as I was getting into more formal meditations through guided practices, through classes and so on, I also started to notice that I was originally a long distance trainer, like running, triathlons, biking. And I find that there was a lot of crossroads to that. So my meditation practice actually first began on the road with super long runs. And then with that awareness of like, hey, running, endurance training, all these things are similar, and it can bring me right back to like my meditation practice today. So all that to be said, like meditation and mindfulness for me has really just been about awareness, because or else like I'm in a constant loop and cycle, and I could just be like repeating the same insanity loops in my life. But the more that I just get to allocate and give time for myself, whether that is informal meditations or like on nature walks or on runs, the more that I get to take inventory of what's going on in my world. And then I get to take conscious shifts and changes to shift my life into greater alignment and harmony.
Beautiful.
Wow. Yeah. Pulse Visionary, what's you want to riff on some experience or otherwise?
Yeah. So I have studied and taught both mindfulness and meditation. One thing I like to point out is that it's a pet peeve of mine when people go, oh, you just need to meditate. Because when people are in an activated neural state of defense, like fight, flight, or freeze, you can't meditate. And so they go, oh, I tried that. I can't do that. I'm a failure. I quit. Whereas really what we need to do is just back up a little bit and go inside and feel for what makes me feel safe. Who am I when I feel safe? And to get back into that space, whether it's curled up in a ball in a fetal position in your bed, or walking in nature, or a full-on full-day quiet meditation, everybody's at different points about it, but that we all have the capacity to be more present in any given moment. And when we are not present in any given moment, it's because our nervous system is neurocepting some kind of danger or threat. And so the more we can align ourselves with discovering what that is in any given moment, then we know that we're in an appropriate neural state and that we can be as present as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I like hearing everyone everyone else go first, because again, I know we have all these different experiences. So for me, it's I don't get to talk about meditation a lot. I don't have a lot of friends that do it. It's one of those things where, I've told people about it, suggested it otherwise. Okay, there's plenty of apps, there's plenty of ways to do it. You don't even need an app. You can just do it yourself. Close your eyes, 10 seconds, all that stuff. But a lot of people aren't that interested until they feel like they either need it, or they just, for some reason, they get into it. It's like they need some sort of push, usually. Like that's why the world isn't doing it. But if I were to imagine a world where everyone knows about mindfulness meditation, they know these practices, they know how to do it. Imagine the peace, like just the inner peace, nothing else, the inner peace. And then you could extrapolate that to maybe better world decisions and all these, wars and all this stuff too. But just the inner peace you can get, that I found from my experience, it's been phenomenal. I'll talk more about that. I'll hand it to Brent to go with what he likes to talk about.
Both of what these two lovely ladies and you as well, Max, have stated, I completely agree with. So I wanted to start there. My basic story is never really heard about meditation growing up that I recall. I mean, I grew up in a interfaith marriage family. My mom's Jewish, my dad's Catholic. So we go to church some Sunday mornings and we go to synagogue some Friday nights. And I went to a Catholic high school. So there were, prayers sometimes before certain classes, depending on the teacher and stuff like that. And I would do some form of praying, but I was never religious from a very young age because of the, interfaith marriage. My brother, who's 2 years older than I, both questioned those things, but I would still kind of pray because, why not? Doesn't really hurt anything, especially I think prayer is some form of meditation. We could talk about that in more depth if you guys would like to. But in any event, around 2010 or so, I think I started hearing more and more about transcendental meditation. The more research I did, the more I found that some people that I highly respected had been doing transcendental meditation for quite some time. TM, I think, became more TM, as it's called for short, transcendental meditation, became more popular in the US, I believe, in the 60s and 70s, before my time. I'm an 85 model, so that was definitely before my time. But I'm a big fan of Jerry Seinfeld and the Seinfeld Show. And I found out that Jerry had been doing TM daily since like the 1970s, to the best of my recollection. And then I've also, been studying finance and things like that for many years in my late teens, early 20s. And a man that I greatly respect named Ray Dalio founded the largest hedge fund on the planet right now by assets under management. And he's been doing TM since the 70s as well, too, twice a day, about 15 minutes twice a day. And I just started watching what I could kind of find on YouTube, interviews of them discussing why they do it, how they do it, what they think about it. Found out more people. It's in Hollywood. David Lynch, a very famous film director, directed a number of films that I highly enjoy. One has become a cult classic. In any event, don't want to stray too far from it. He's a big proponent of it. And so I thought, I wonder if there's something to this. So I started doing some research and tried to do it on my own. But I'm like, you know what? I should probably look into actually getting professionally coached in this. So I actually just checked my Google. We were talking about this in the green room before. And it was actually August of 2013 where I paid the $1,500 to get professionally trained by Michael Yonkis, was the name of my trainer or coach, whatever you call it. It was like 5 sessions where I actually worked with him, and he kind of coached me, trained me specifically in TM. And he has been in it since the 70s. And he actually worked with Maharishi Yogi, who's the inventor of TM and brought it to the US in the 60s and 70s. And so I felt like that was kind of cool. And that $1,500 like gets me into all the transcendental meditation locations globally, which apparently there's a lot. And I've never done that. So in any event, certainly don't regret spending the money. I thought it was a really good experience. But as my experience and open mind kind of continued, I found at the same time in 2013, I was working at a startup called Video in Redwood Shores, California, in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. And this gentleman's name was Alex, one of my colleagues, and he was real big into mindfulness. So we would go on walks at lunch and just kind of talk about the differences between TM and mindfulness and what he enjoyed about it and what I enjoyed about it. And so I started trying that as well, too. And then my evolution from there is Naval Ravikant, early, discoverer, investor in Bitcoin around 2010, very brilliant mind, probably the best venture capitalist of our generation, early investor in Uber, Twitter, really, really brilliant mind. He's talked a lot about meditation in a different form. I think the kind of Whitney kind of articulated, but I'll maybe give Naval's take on it. Naval's tweeted in the past something along the line of just going out into nature, sitting at a park bench and just looking out at everything, birds chirping, kids playing. Like, that's a form of meditation as well too. So that really broadened my perception of the word meditation, what it means. It's just really anything that can benefit you, calm the mind, give you any type of improvement. And so that's kind of the way that I view it at this point. And that's kind of my evolution of it. I could talk more about it, but I think I've talked enough for now on that. So that's kind of my perspective.
Oh, definitely want to circle back to it too. I'll just give mine before we go into mindfulness. What is TM? What is meditation? In general, different kinds, different experiences too. But for me, I think I'd say around the last 6 months or so, I've been using the Sam Harris app. Waking up, I've read the book / listened to it, whatever you want to call it. I was always kind of a big Sam Harris fan, and then I was like, and then he started getting into politics. I was like, all right, I'm less of a Sam Harris fan. I kind of like lost it for a while. And then I saw that, he created this app. I'm like, oh, the app's cool. And it's, I think it's free for the first 30 days or whatever. There's a whole session. He walks you through, it's guided meditation, but also a lot of different concepts. That's what I like about it. So it's worth every penny I paid for it. There's not that many pennies, but as far as investing in yourself, I think that was really cool. So that got me into it. That gave me a tangible way of, hey, there's this, this person, it's kind of like you're talking. It's funny, TV, radio, all this stuff. It's like one-way communication, but especially, I don't know if it's his voice or whatever it is. It just feels like you just have like a friend talking to you. It's like that kind of deal. Even though it's one way, you have like someone just like, kind of giving you advice or like showing you these concepts or telling you it's going to be okay. All that type of stuff wrapped up into one app. So I love like his whole training, his whole program. And then afterwards, you have daily meditations, you have 10, 20-minute, all this stuff. Very professional. It took years and years of work. Huge shout out to Sam Harris for making that happen. I think a lot of people use that. He calls it waking up, a new operating system for your mind. Totally jives with me. I'm like, yes, it's a completely new way of thinking about things. And and again, it's not to me, I think the common view of meditation is, oh, that's something you do just to calm down and it'll be calm and it'll just, all the negative energy or whatever will just go away if you just meditate. It's really about being aware, just being aware, and then figuring out how to deal with stuff once you're aware. That's what it's meant to me so far. So if you're just, there's a bunch of things. I mean, there's so many Sam Harris concepts and different things that he talks about on there, but like mind chatter, I think he calls it brain chatter, mind chatter, just being able to just be like, okay, everything's good, looking out, be, gratefulness, all these different practices make you think and feel, not exaggerating any bad situation or anything you're afraid or ashamed or whatever is going on. It just helps you be like, hey, first of all, there is no self, there's a whole like deal about that. And second of all, if you zoom out, everything you're worried about is probably not that big a deal anyways. And like, what is it? It makes you question, it's all these, again, courses, sub-courses. What is a big deal? Like, what does it mean with the self, energy, all this stuff. So anyways, I found all that very fascinating. And the past, this year has just been a whole really just ability, again, a new operating system for your mind, like a way to, even if you don't, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with something, not dealing with something, whatever, like this is something that you can accumulate, these type of practices, whether it's the Sam Harris style or not, in a way to just invest in yourself and be like, okay, when you do come across something that you're not sure how to deal with or you need help or whatever, you have the tools you need. It's just a tool to help you do what you need to do. So that's what it's meant to me. That's what I want to talk about. I think it's important, and I'm happy that I'm not alone in this. I know when I talked about on Twitter, I was like, wow, there's a lot of people that I don't hear from much or I don't know yet that are really into it. So I'll leave it there. What direction? Up to you all. What direction you want to go into? What do you think is interesting to talk about as far as these concepts? Whoever wants to go.
I can make a comment about what you were just saying with mindfulness and meditation.
Sure.
And that experientially, at first, when I was first studying meditation and mindfulness, it's like, oh shit, I got to meditate. And oh shit, I forgot to meditate. That, and then all of a sudden it gets to the point where it's like, oh, okay, I get to meditate now, where it becomes this coveted space that's really nice to go to. And then over time, it becomes even kind of a bigger, really nice space to go to. We go, okay, I get to go meditate. And then after a while, it's like once you're there, I started noticing, like, where do my thoughts go? Because we're not stopping our thoughts. That's not going to happen. So it's like being able to notice where my thoughts go, right? If we exist in an electromagnetic torus-shaped field, then some of these thoughts, they're not even mine. They just happen to be in the field, and I might pick one up and think it was mine, or somebody told me it was mine. But then to start really, deciding, do I want to hold that thought that way? Is that really something that I own, or is that something that I just found? And so starting to direct my own, what percentage of my thoughts are going to be spent on fixing things, and what percentage of my thoughts are going to be spent on, enjoying the moment, or looking at a bigger picture, or finding a different view. But to be more present, to be mindful of something, and to be able to meditate on something, I think is a beautiful progress of growth that I can see how people get frustrated in the beginning, because it's like, monkey mind and all that going on, but to stick with it, because over time it really does become something that's rightfully coveted by a lot of successful people. And I'm complete.
Yeah, I'll just say on that too, real quick, React, like I was listening to a podcast yesterday, talked about kind of, I guess, I'm not sure, I think there's some overlap here though too, but analytical versus a reactionary mind. And I mean, even if you get the analytical part, just the stopping yourself from having an instant reaction, whether it's positive, negative feelings, whatever it is, training yourself, again, the monkey mind type of thing, of not just like reacting, oh, I gotta, your flight and fight responses, all that stuff. Those are very interesting to be aware of, again, and then you can decide to change them or do whatever you want with them. So that just made me think of that too. It was very interesting. I think Whitney was going to go up.
Yeah. So to build upon this, I have found that, like, for people who are getting started with this stuff, like, the reason that we've been touching upon this a lot, where it's like, once you can get started with it and you have a foundation, that's where you then get to play with it. And I find the same thing goes with investing. It's like, you have to understand the terms enough. You have to understand the lay of the land. Once you have that, then you can start to play more. And so that's where it's like, if you can challenge yourself to, like, I personally really love, like, turning things into challenges. I call them curiosity challenges, of like, I don't know what, like, 30 days of meditation is going to do to my life, but I'm curious, how is this going to shift my reality? Like, let's just play with it a little bit. And when you can add some curiosity, it adds some lightness, and doesn't add some, like, I have to do this, like it's on my to-do list. It's just like, I'm curious, how is this going to change my reality? How is, like, cold showers in the morning going to change? How am I going to respond to it? And so I very much love bringing that aspect of play and mindfulness just to life, of adding any of these practices, which ultimately, like, I mean, a lot of people like to sum this up into healing work, but I mean, I love to sum it up also into healing work, but sometimes the word healing feels quite heavy when you get into it, of like, oh, we're healing our traumas, we're bringing things to consciousness. And instead of healing, I just, like, it's revealing, and we're all, like, in this big playground of life anyways. So it's like, how can we have this be a little bit lighter? How can we play with a different tool? And so for myself, like, I've definitely dabbled with a whole bundle of different modalities. I want to say it's been over the past, like, 5 to 7 years. And so, like, yoga was a really great entryway point for me, and then meditation. And then I did different plant medicine ceremonies. And then I've moved over to, like, I spent a lot of time in conscious communities, like over in Bali. There was, being in conscious communities, I find just there's a whole lot of different modalities that get brought up. So, like, I played around a lot with, like, sound therapy and healing. So that could be, like, with singing bowls, gongs, just a whole bundle of different stuff that comes up with sound, which for me, as like, having a more busy mind, I found that helps my, like, mind catch different feelings and sensations, and just be able to explore deeper levels of life and bring that, like, mindfulness to it. And yeah, I mean, I'll just leave it. I was just rattling off a list of things, but also when I was in Bali, one thing that hit me is I did a darkroom retreat, and I can get deeper into that, but it's just, that was a very confronting but also like beautifully revealing retreat where I was in a dark room, like darkest of all darks that I've ever experienced for 3 days. And it was a space that in the room was quite dark and hard for me. But once I had got out and like was able to reveal more layers in my inner world, I was left with more curiosity, more inner joy. And it's like showing that like some of the darkness and doing the work helps bring this inner light to our world.
Wow, I love seeing the different perspectives here too. Yes, I got a question in the chat. I'll get to right after Brent goes here, but yeah, this is a great conversation, everyone.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree. So again, agree with everything the two lovely ladies have said here, as well as you, Max. And if I don't agree, I will tell you guys. I'm not just BSing. So we'll see if that actually comes up. But it's probably no surprise that we have a lot in common. And, just regarding this conversation, I spent 3 weeks in Bali in March of 2018 with my wife and brother and a few friends, and did a yoga retreat there for a little bit and got into yoga. Yeah, I think before meditation, probably around 2009, I was doing the P90X like yoga every day in my apartment in Sunnyvale in the Silicon Valley area around like 2011, 12, 13. In any event, so yeah, just kind of, and then plant medicine's been into that for a long time as well too. We could maybe discuss that further on this stream, or maybe leave it for another stream. So I guess it's no surprise, because it seems like the four of us and probably this greater community of Hexicans are people who have open minds and like to try new things and have growth mindsets. So my favorite kind of way to put this is the mind is like a parachute. It has to be open to work, but you don't want your mind to be too open. Your brains will fall out. So it's kind of like having that middle ground and searching for the truth, being a truth seeker. The final thing I'll say on here before I guess I kick it back to Max to maybe answer any questions in the chat is to expand a little bit more, since I think my experience is more in TM, transcendental meditation, is the way that it works from the way that it was taught to me, and I understand it, is you're given what's called a mantra, and I was given that mantra or mantra, however you pronounce it, by my instructor, I believe is what he called himself, Michael, who'd been doing TM and trained with the creator of it, Maharishi Yogi, back in the 70s. And this mantra is essentially a word that's gibberish. It doesn't mean anything. And you just you close your eyes and you sit there with your, just how I'm sitting now. You put your hands on your kind of knees area, or your kind of like your lower thighs close to your knees. You just sit there, you close your eyes for about 15 minutes. They recommend like twice a day. So maybe like morning and then afternoon, evening time. And then you just repeat that mantra over and over in your head with your eyes closed. And I think the purpose of it is that, you're trying to not elicit, and it's not supposed to be a word that means anything, because then that word will then maybe create those images in your mind as your eyes are closed. And so you're not supposed to share your mantra with anybody. You're supposed to keep that private so that only you know it. And it's supposed to be given to you by your instructor. Before I did this, I was doing, before I actually paid the money and got the official like instruction at the Palo Alto TM Center, I was doing it on my own, and I just kind of picked one that from like a Google search or something, or a TM like internet chat site or something. But once
Bibliofico, just made
something like that. I think they're a little bit shorter than that, not that many syllables, but yeah, basically just completely. You just repeat it over and over again. It's very weird. It's very strange if you've never done something like that, but that's what you're supposed to do. And I could talk a little bit more about that in a bit if we have time and if people are interested. But I just kind of wanted to explain a little bit more of like what TM actually is. And the reason, again, I was so interested in it is because I found like interviews on YouTube of like Jerry Seinfeld and David Lynch and Ray Dalio talking about their perception of how much it's improved their life. And they're, like I said, very successful people in their own fields. And they have attributed, their practice of TM greatly to their success. And I just thought, man, I got to look into this more. And then the more I looked into it, as I articulated earlier, the more I realized like there's various forms of meditation, and I think that they can all be kind of beneficial. And I guess the final thing I'll say real briefly is, in my evolution as a person and stuff, and looking at this word meditation, thinking about it, I've given this, advice or shared my story for many years on my own YouTube channel and other channels I've been a guest on from other hosts, is that I think everybody needs to audit their own thoughts every single day. I mean, we audit, companies and things like that. Just auditing your own thoughts is kind of a form of meditation. I started around like 2017. So you basically sit there with your eyes closed. You can open them if you want. I think it's better to have my eyes closed where I can just think. I just really think about what's going right in my life and what's going wrong in my life and how I kind of got to this point, whether it's good or bad. And so then what maybe I did to bring myself to this point and what I could be doing to improve that, if it's a good thing, or what I have done in the past and what I can do to change it, to if it's a bad thing that I want to kind of get rid of, whether it's a person, place, or thing, whatever it is. That's kind of a form of meditation, if you will, that I found very helpful that people could do on a daily basis. So I could discuss that more, but I think I articulated the high level of it. It's really that simple, and people can try that on their own. And you could even do it before you go to sleep or something. If it can be very calming, if you just kind of like come to a realization of like, oh my gosh, I've been creating this problem myself by like continuing this type of behavior or this thought. Thoughts are real, and they can be like a virus if they're bad beliefs that you have that are self-limiting, holding yourself back. So, the only way the best way to solve a problem is to realize that a problem exists. And so if you don't even realize that a problem exists and that you are the one creating this problem and perpetuating it over and over again, then it's hard to solve it. So that's why I think that practice can be helpful too. So in any event, I can expand on that later if people want to, but I think it's important that I kind of articulate that, because I've found that personally to be kind of my most helpful form of quote unquote meditation. And I do that almost every single day.
Yeah. I think two things on that too is thinking about it, meditating on something or otherwise, it's like you may come to the conclusion that there is a problem you didn't realize there was, or something you want to change, or however you categorize it, or there's nothing at all. There's just something that either you've created, you've like just created this thing that it's not really a problem, like nobody else cares about, or it doesn't really matter that much to you, or just there's some non-rational reason for you to ruminate on it or otherwise, and you come to that realization. I think that's really powerful too, especially when you're doing meditation or otherwise. I was going to ask too. Oh yeah, so we got a question. Speaking of that, there's another question in the chat, but this one's here and closer to the topic. I'm asking why Bali.
In particular for myself, Bali called me in. And I find a lot of places do when they're special and sacred to us. But Bali, so I personally lived 1.5 to 2 years in Bali right after I left the corporate world. And I was like, that was when I found crypto, and I took a financial sabbatical to like really break my life down to understand like what is a life that is in design and in alignment for me. So Bali in particular is a very spiritual hub. It's also, so it's in Indonesia. It's the only island that is Hindu within all of the Muslim islands. So I bring that up just on the spiritual component because there's you can feel the energy in the island. It's very special, very sacred. I like to say it's a little bit more, it's very feminine. So it's like very much like Mama Bali. There's a lot of playful energy there. There's a lot of spiritual different ways to play, and it calls a big spiritual community in. So like, if there's anyone who is seeking and wants time and has space, Bali is typically a cheaper cost of living island place. So that was also a pro for me, to really just slow down and question, like, what is the life that I want? How can I play with myself on a deeper level? And like, what are the different tools that I want to play with here? Because like healing doesn't have to be hard. There are different tools that will resonate with me, something that different that will resonate with you. We just have to discover and play with them all and see what sticks.
Gotcha. I've yet to visit Bali. I was trying to visit Bali one time, and they had some natural disaster, which happens unfortunately all the time over there in Indonesia. It's what is that they call the circle? Was it like the fire, the ring of fire? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, they happen too often. I had a trip booked there, so I'm going to go one day. I don't know if I'll meditate there or I'll just vacation, maybe both. You never know.
Max,
it's a beautiful place.
If I could share like in under 60 seconds, My wife and I said, we're in Bali for about 3 weeks. In March of 2018, it was right after I quit my job at Microsoft LinkedIn in San Francisco in February of 2018. And I went to Anarchapulco in February with my wife and brother, which is Jeff Berwick's conference, mainly, about anarcho-capitalism, but also greatly about crypto. And that's in Acapulco, Mexico, of course. But then we went to Bali after that, and I couldn't believe it. I booked it in late January on hotels.com. We booked a place. We weren't going to stay in like one place for that long, but we stayed in this one hotel for 9 days. The first 9 days we were there, I believe it was March 6th to March 15th. And I remember that because my birthday is March 16th. And it was a brand new hotel that had just finished construction, a few months before. It included a free all-you-can-eat breakfast, traditional like Balinese breakfast with like really good like vegetables and stuff. And they have a chef there that will like cook your eggs however you want and stuff like that. It was $22 a day for my wife and I to stay in this hotel. It's just like unbelievable. So when Whitney talked about like economical, I'm sure things have changed. It's been 5.5 years, but like it's just like crazy. And that was an extreme. We got really lucky, I think, with that booking. It's typically a little bit more expensive than that, but I just wanted to give people like numbers because I'll never forget that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to interject something in here back to what we were talking about in terms of mindfulness and meditation practices, especially for beginners. People, a lot of people in our community are really stressed out right now and not able to be as present as they'd like to, and looking for more tools of how do I not get thrown off so easily by the craziness of the world, and who am I when I feel safe as opposed to who am I when I feel threatened. And I just wanted to bring out the fact that what we realize, and we've realized this all the way back as far as like the Hopi Indians and ancient peoples, that when we're stressed out, we lose the connection of our heart and our brain. And so we lose the ability to feel. And that, I believe, is what a lot of evil forces are gearing us toward, to keep us afraid so that we can't think or feel or do the things that we know are right to do. And so understanding that we've been put in this neurological state of I can't think, I can't feel, I can't move, intentionally things are being done. So how do we, from that position, how do we make it back to connecting our heart and our brain so we can think and feel at the same time? Because whatever I'm thinking about during my meditation and mindfulness is still just a thought. And I still need to be connected to the feeling about it. And so when I haven't been connected to it in a while, when I first start feeling things, they feel really big and raw and scary. And I don't want to go there. That's why I numbed out in the first place. And that's why I numb out every day, because I don't want to go there. It's big and scary. So how do I find the courage in my heart to sense these feelings, to lean into them, to be willing to feel through it, to find a place where I'm not just constricted, where I can actually have the life pulse expanding and contracting at a healthy rate of integration of new information, new feelings, rather than disintegrated and just feeling like a victim of the world, right? Like I want to impact the world. I have many layers to my being. I'm a gift to the world, and I feel like I could be doing more. So what are my first steps? How do I get out of this freeze state? And I think one of the most important first steps is to be able to pause and take a deep breath. And so I'm going to ask you all right now to do this with me. With as straight of a spine as possible. You can open or close your eyes, it's up to you, but put your hand on your heart. And while you inhale in with your belly expanding and then your rib cage expanding, on the exhale, the rib cage is coming down and the belly's going back in. Keep breathing that way and find a feeling. Find a really positive memory of a feeling. Still inhaling into the belly and rib cage, and exhale, releasing. You'll notice the breath slowing down. You'll notice you're calming down. Your thoughts are slowing down. And there's that feeling. This can take place in as few as 6 breath cycles, and you can take as many minutes as you want to it. But how many times throughout the day can I pause and do that? And one of the reasons why I wanted to come today is because, especially right now, if we do that a few times a day, we're less apt to get wrecked and go press some button we shouldn't have touched. And in many aspects of our world, not just crypto, but it's like, pause, stop, feel something. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I feeling right now? And does it really matter? And what do I think? And what does that really matter? But to be able to be in coherence with my thoughts and my feelings makes me more humane and allows me to sense that in others, where instead of me being in this fight, flight, or freeze craziness of just going and going, I can pause and go, wow, I really am a human being that thinks and feels. That guy over there, he's not a jerk. He's just really activated right now. His nervous system is frightened. So then we can start having more compassion for one another and be a source of compassion for others just by being true to ourselves. We don't have to do anything or teach anybody or anything. We just have to be it. And what a gift it is to the world. And what a gift Richard Hart is to the world for setting us up for this ability. All we have to do is pick up on it and make it a part of our life. And I'm complete.
That was great. That felt really good. Yeah, I did it too. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's if everyone, that's what I said earlier, like if everyone just, if you just imagine a world, if you're going to imagine utopia, imagine a world where everyone like knows mindfulness meditation and practices this kind of stuff. Like that's having a reaction again, like you looking at people who are, you know, having a bad day or offend you in some way or just are doing whatever things out there. A lot of it is probably coming from, they're just having this anxiety. They're having this just reaction. They're reacting to whatever's going on in their lives, and understanding that and having compassion for people and just perspective. Like just, if nothing else, when you look at someone, instead of just writing them off as a jerk, be like, oh, they're having a bad day. Like, I get it. I've had those too. Of course there's a certain extent where, hey, they're making everything else worse, and there could be an intervention, but at the same time, you don't need to get upset with them, right? You don't need to be the jerk too. That's that sort of thing. I think it's great practice.
Not only that, our very being calms them.
Yeah. Sandra, that was gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. And as you were speaking, one thing I was like being reminded of is these practices really do help. It always reminds me to be able to see the unconditional love that is around me in every form and in everyone. And those like little reframes of like, oh, this person's just having this moment. Like we can still love everything. The love is still there. And then that's when it gets to be actually reflected back to them. So thank you.
Right. Thank you. And what somebody wrote in the questions too is like, what are your routine things? I really, first thing in the morning before I do anything, I take 10 deep breaths and I think about what I'm grateful for. So if I can start my day in that present, mindful, kind state, how long can I keep it? And can I notice when it gets thrown off, when I get activated? And can I bring it back when I notice it gets activated? So from that kind of a perspective, I might only have little islands of peace throughout my day, but if I catch them and I start nurturing them and growing them, then pretty soon I only have little islands of not peace. And so it's a matter of just like Thich Nhat Hanh says, no water, no mud, no flower, right? So like there's always suffering inside of joy, and there's always joy inside of suffering. And so it's how we hold it, and can we hold it all? And how do we hold it where it fits okay for us, where we don't have to try to escape and where we can be more present. And I'm complete again. Thank you.
Yeah, just if we want to go with this question, actually, I mean, I guess we can start with whoever wants to take it first. Morning routines. I think that's be interesting to talk about. Meditation, breathing exercises, coffee, when, what, where. Who wants to go first on that, or go next? I guess Pulse Visionary went into a little bit there too.
I'll make mine really brief. My wife and I are parents of my son just turned 4 and my daughter's 16 months. So it's hard to have a true morning routine with 2 young kids. I see Sandra, I assume you have kids. They're probably full grown, maybe even older than me. But yeah, it's tough. Ideally though, I recommend whatever works for people. I love what Sandra said about, just taking 10 deep breaths. Gratitude, I feel like, is missing from so many people's lives in this point in time. Gratitude and perspective are 2 words that I think are really important. You have people freaking out on X and social media over all sorts of things. Some people just, I'd say that they've forgotten history and don't have perspective, but a lot of people were never taught proper history and don't have proper perspective on the world of where they are at this point in time and in this world. I feel extremely fortunate and lots of gratitude for it to be where I am at this point in time. And so in any event, cold showers or warm showers, meditation, mindfulness, gratitude, going outside for a walk, grounded, bare feet into the ground, all those things, getting the circadian rhythm set by getting outside and sunlight early morning. If you're a coffee drinker, fine. Wait at least 1 hour after you wake up before drinking caffeine. I can talk about, maybe we did talk about that in a sleep discussion. I don't want to hog the conversation. We can talk about that more, but just trust me, drink a bunch of water as much as you can when you wake up before you have your first cup of coffee. There's actual sleep science behind that. All those things I think are, really good lifestyle behaviors that people can do to set themselves up for a great day.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what everyone's brought up already. And I'll add the aspect around routines. I personally have had a love-hate relationship with, because I've definitely gone on the edge of too hard of being like, I have to have this list of things. And if that's the case, then a routine isn't there to serve me, but instead that feels more like work. So if anyone is feeling this, where they're like, oh, I have to have my breathing and I have to do the cold shower and I have to drink hot water with pink Himalayan salt and lemon. Like if you have this long laundry list of things, it's going to feel like you're doing heaviness. So for myself, I'll go through, I've been really, I'll anchor in certain practices. Like I'll spend 30 days or 21 days is the thing of 21 days makes a habit. So focus on building something that makes a strong habit. So for me, like journaling is a really big love of mine. And I know that I can always return back to that habit or that practice because I've made it a habit. So if you're in a time of creating something, anchor and focus on something to create a habit with it. And then it becomes a tool in your toolbox that you can always go back to and refer to as a morning routine. So one thing around routines, but then for myself, gratitude. And the other thing that I do, and I've trained myself, this is a little bit more advanced for anyone out there, is when I'm laying in bed, I try to catch the first thought that comes into my mind. In the morning, it's like the first thing that pops in, because like so often the mind just wants to run off to the race of like, well, I have to do that and that and that and that. But I invite you to challenge yourself to be like, can I just notice? Like, did I first hear or reflect on a dream that I had? Or did I notice the sunlight that came in? Or did I notice a little anxiety voice that came in right away? Try to catch that first thought and just notice it and observe it. And I'll leave that there.
Well, yeah, very interesting on the catching the thought thing. I'm gonna have to try that tomorrow morning. Yeah. Just briefly on my routine too. When I wake up, it's I got a family too, so it's not always, there's routines on certain days that go different directions. But the thing I've tried to always get in, I can't do it first thing in the morning, but I try to, and I have been for months, pretty much daily, is the meditation. Sometime in the morning when I have a spare 10 minutes, 15 minutes to sit down, go to a quiet room, go outside when it's not freezing cold, and just enjoy Sam Harris's voice and the lesson for the day. And a lot of the silence, of course, as well. So that exercise, of course, coffee. I try not to have it. I caught myself this morning. I've been having coffee too early, but I do it anyway because I love the taste of coffee so much. But I'll wake up 40 minutes. I put the coffee on. It takes about 10 minutes. I'm like, it's not quite an hour, but I'm going to get it in. So yes, that is definitely something I've been trying to do. And ever since I figured out that was at least better for, if nothing else, it allows you to get the energy faster, like it allows the caffeine to do its job. If I know there's a bunch of other benefits with it too, drinking water and otherwise, but at least if you want the actual, whatever you get from coffee, other than the flavor, an hour seems like the ideal time, at least. I think that's part of it. I try to do that. Maybe I listen to audiobooks or otherwise throughout the day about topics that are around meditation or mindfulness, or people who just have the ability to think and speak in ways that aren't reactionary, and give you that influence. Again, what you eat is what you are. What you listen to is part of what you are as well. So so many people, I have friends and stuff too, and they love talking about either conspiracy theories. Not that I have conspiracy theory friends, but people are like, I'm so interested in this world event, and I'm like, what good is it doing you thinking about that? Like that if you can't do anything about it, and you have no control over it and all these things, why? I know it's interesting, but like being aware, to me, it's like, okay, I'm aware that's an interesting thing. I can spend a bunch of time, rabbit hole, go down it, but is this making me happier? I always go back to that. I had a friend over Thanksgiving, and we had this conversation, but again, not trying to get anyone else's advice. I'm just like, to me, I was talking to him, I'm like, I want to think about things that make me happier, not things that I can't control, nothing I can do about. There's lots of horrible things going on out there that I have no control over. So me knowing the most about that event, it's not making me happier. Why am I doing it? So I try to put that throughout the day as well.
Yeah, it's important to understand what we can do something about, and that things that we can't do anything about, because there's no sense needlessly worrying. And we can be so much more effective if we sort them out of what we can do something about. I think about, coming up, the whole thing about sudden wealth syndrome, where right now is when we should be practicing for that. Because right now we think we're all ready and all protected and stuff, and we're not. We're not at all. So what can I do on a daily basis that is going to give me more depth of connection with my feelings and thoughts, so that I am in a coherent space when I make a decision? So if I'm going to talk to anyone about newfound wealth or whatever, am I coming from a place of being solid, or am I thrown off in where I'm presenting it from? So maybe I don't need to even talk to you about my finances. Maybe it's just going to set you up to be jealous or want it. So maybe it's really none of your business. And maybe me acting immaturely because I've never had that before is going to be shooting myself in the foot just by bringing it up. So maybe in the meantime, I could practice with a different secret, some little secret that I have that I'm not going to tell anybody. And not that we even really have to be secretive, but why be a target needlessly, and in a mature way of handling information about boundaries and who I am and who I present myself as opposed to who I want to be seen as, or who I see myself as. Okay, I'm complete. Thank you.
Well said, as usual, Pulse Visionary. As we're coming up on time, I think probably use the rest of the time just to kind of wrap up any other brief topics that you think are interesting around this, or any shout outs to any apps or channels or guidance. I know we had me and Whitney and Graphics was here too, kind of putting out their favorites, but anything where people can, good resources you think for mindfulness meditation, and then we'll also talk about how people can interact with you all more as well.
Max, I'll go one more on, I might have even talked about this on a previous live stream on your channel regarding sleep. I highly recommend this. And funny enough, we did a retreat at my Jesuit all guys Catholic high school. What am I, 38? So 22 years ago, I think my sophomore year when I was like 16. Karen White was the teacher, and she just had us basically like pray to, God before you go to bed. Not like on your knees on the ground on the bed, like, 1950s cartoon, but like actually in bed, eyes closed. And you just kind of recognize mistakes that you have made in that day. Maybe you didn't even view it as a full, like, quote unquote mistake, but maybe something that you could have done better. And then you just recognize that, and then you forgive yourself for that. And I've kind of taken that. So I started doing it then at that time, like 22 years ago when I was 16, but I've evolved it into my own kind of like form. And I think I've talked about this. I don't recall exactly regarding when we were talking about sleep. Right before you go to bed, your brain is in a state of theta. And so theta is a state of the brain that like children are in before the age of 6. So like my son, is 4 years old. It's very imaginative, very creative, but it's also, there's only 2 ways that the subconscious mind can be reprogrammed. It's through repetition and through hypnosis, essentially. So when you're in a state of theta, you're actually in a state of like hypnosis, and you can actually reprogram your subconscious mind. So not your conscious mind, which holds all your wants, wishes, desires, hopes, your identity, but your subconscious mind, which according to experts like Dr. Bruce Lipton, who lives in Santa Cruz, may be familiar with him. He says that the subconscious mind runs about 95% of our program. So we can get into this in a whole nother live stream, but it could be a big reason why people are not able to change a lot of the things in their life, because they're trying to change it consciously, but they're not reprogramming the subconscious mind. So what I'm talking about, hopefully to put this all together, is I find this particular practice that I do every single night before I go to bed very helpful in reprogramming my subconscious mind. I just kind of think back any mistakes I did. Maybe I yelled at my kid on something that was like I overreacted. I just close my eyes. I forgive myself for that, but I don't just forgive myself off the hook. I make a mental note, and I'm going to try my best to do better and not make that mistake in the future. And I find that to be really helpful, not just for reprogramming the subconscious mind, like I talked about, and we can talk about more of the science on that in maybe a future live stream, but also just to like literally forgive myself so I can be more at peace. And then it doesn't lead into some kind of like PTSD in the future. It allows myself to just kind of drift off to sleep. So that's maybe not meditation, but I do view it as like a form of meditation that's been incredibly helpful for me.
Oh. And Brent, where can, just as we're wrapping up too, where can people find more of your stuff before we get down to the remaining 2 warriors here?
Brent Nally on YouTube. I'd like to be more active. YouTube breaks things up now when you go to somebody's channel as like videos that you've actually uploaded, and then live, you're live streaming right now. So you'd have to actually click on live. I've done a few live streams over the last couple months. So you can find some stuff there. Hopefully I plan to start doing more videos soon. And then on X, Brent Nally, and then all social media really. But those are the 2 that I'm trying to focus on the most moving forward. Gotcha.
Good. Pulse Visionary.
So you can find me on Twitter at Pulse Visionary. I tend to work by Zoom and mostly by referral, but I do work with helping people who are dealing with, trauma, chronic pain, anxiety, and depression in ways things that you can do, not just talking about it, but action steps. So thank you.
That's great. I'm glad to have all of you and all of your talents to be in the community. It's fantastic. I love this place. Whitney?
For some links that just like popped into my mind of things that could help people. Personally, I really love, I'm going back to sound. Sound has been super healing for me, especially like I have more of an ADHD mind. So to help my mind grab onto things, that's been huge. Binaural beats are awesome. In particular, the Monroe Institute has the highest quality binaural beats that I can think of. And it goes back to balancing the hemispheres of your brain. So there's a lot of science behind it if you're curious about that. Abraham Hicks, I mentioned in the chat. I really love all her stuff. To like a big reason that I listen to things online as like a little mental reframe for people is when it's like acknowledging where we're at right now and the voices are coming up in our head, and we have to try to integrate it, like see the voices to give them space to then be able to shift it. And so I really like when like hearing either energy updates or like the guided visualizations or talks by Abraham Hicks to help understand and reframe how situations are going on in my life, so then I can actually make a shift in my world. So those are some of my favorite things. Lee Harris is another guy that I love who does a lot of energy updates. But yeah, a lot of it goes back to shifting our inner mindset of how we talk to ourselves. And way people can connect with me. I'm going to be doing more on YouTube coming up, specifically related to consciousness and building wealth, and related mostly to women. So Whitney Magic is that name over there. On Twitter, it's Whitney_magic. And then Instagram is really the place that I play the most, and that's whitney.crypto.magic. So happy to connect with anyone there.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we've got creating a ton of content, ton of media. We're live streaming now, all that stuff. I think it's a lot of people got a lot of responses when I talked about doing a meditation one, and this goes just with the series. I want to keep doing the Health is Wealth series. Brent's came on for the first one, and this one as well. And anyone in the community who will just kind of pick topics and figure out what to cover, what are people interested in, and hopefully, open up your mind. I don't know. I can't think of any reason why meditation, like if everyone did it, like I can't think of any downside. I just can't think of it. It just seems like the most just inner thing you could do to and without a downside, to my experience at least. So glad we can talk about it. We covered a lot of different things today. Appreciate you all. Brent, Pulse Visionary, Whitney, fantastic job. Love the stream, and hope the replay gang loves it as well. So without further ado, again, thank you all. And we are out. Scivive and 5555.